Ars Technica, D&D maker retreats from attempts to update long-standing open license. Negative response to latest draft was in such high volume as to force WotC's hand. So yeah, Dungeons & Dragons has been a lot of talk about Dungeons & Dragons lately around the OGL, the open gaming license that they were attempting to change into a license which would allow them to take profits from anybody who is publishing anything for Dungeons & Dragons. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I do appreciate everybody stopping by and supporting my work. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed, and we'll get into this article. Talk about this topic here. It's going to be kind of a capstone for my recent gaming videos. This upsets me because I am very unhappy with the Dungeons & Dragons game. It's just... Role-playing games are amazing. The most fun pastime you can engage in. And D&D is like... It's just a bad game, and everybody loves it. Everybody... Like, so many people play it. Well, I can't say everybody. I mean, I have met plenty of people who don't like it. I've met people who are like, this 5th edition is just terrible. And I have met people who refuse to play it. And that's the thing is, like, you have to kind of play Dungeons & Dragons in order to game out here in California where I am. I haven't played any... I didn't play for years. Didn't play for years and years and years after I moved to California. Not because I didn't want to, but I was focused on my career. And then it's like, if I want a game, it's going to be one of these lame-o level class requiring systems. When you force players into this rigid definition of what their character is, the game becomes stale really fast. A lot of people like D&D. Maybe I'm the one who's wrong. But maybe it has to do with a level of intellect. Because Dungeons & Dragons, they don't want it to be a role-playing game. They want it to be a role-playing game. A dice-rolling game. That's not what D&D is. That's not what it's supposed to be anyway. I mean, maybe that's what D&D is, but it's not supposed to be that. Role-playing games are about pretending to be somebody you are not, in a situation you are not. D&D wants to eliminate all that. So they walk back the OGL, the new version they're going to put out, which allows them to take all these profits. Dungeons & Dragons owner, Wizards of the Coast, WotC, has halted its attempts to update the long-standing open game license that has dictated the legal use of the game's rules for decades. The move comes after weeks of controversy and belated attempts to partially scale back leaked plans for an OGL update. The original gaming license 1.0a, first released in the early aughts, will now remain untouched, WotC announced in a tweet Friday. What's more, the entire D&D systems reference document, SRD, which also includes creative content like classes, spells, and monsters, trademarked and copyrighted by WotC, is now available under Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License, meaning it's free to use as long as proper credit is given. Stop playing with classes, and Dungeons & Dragons spells are terrible, especially the new ones. In 5th edition, they're like just like weak spells. Used to be Web was like a devastating spell. Now you cast it and it's like, oh, they made their saving throw. It doesn't affect them at all. Like, yeah, okay. Web used to be a serious thing. Now it's just, and that's the way most of the spells are. And you can make up so much better. Use GURPS. Use the hero system. Use Savage Worlds. The Dice 6 system. You can just do whatever you want to do, and you don't have to worry about the limitations of Dungeons & Dragons. Maybe people want those limitations, I guess. I guess they want that. They want to work within that system. And it's like, oh, whatever. WotC's full retreat in this licensing battle comes as WotC says survey feedback on the latest draft update to the license was in such high volume, and its direction is so plain that the company felt it had to act immediately, as executive producer Kyle Brink wrote on the D&D Beyond blog. That decisive response includes an overwhelming majority of more than 15,000 survey respondents who said they didn't want to publish RPG content under the proposed OGL 1.2, 88%. The new license would force them to change a part of their business, 90%. They did not want the original OGL deauthorized, 89%, and/or they were not happy with WotC's drafted policy of virtual tabletop content, 86%. I'm glad you found a way to make money in the capitalist system that, I mean, it's questionable, I guess. You could say it's questionable whether or not this is hurting anybody. I think it is hurting people. The Dungeons & Dragons model of gaming is damaging the opportunities that people have to play good games because it's so dominant in the market. And I'm sorry that, that might be taken away from you by WotC, but I mean, it is their property. They can change the rules if they want to at any point in time. And I wish they would. And I wish this would upset a lot of people because, hey, then D&D might die the death that it deserves, and we can move on to good games. Beyond that, 62% of respondents said they want more content from the SRD included under a Creative Commons license above and beyond the core rules that were covered as of last week. Well, I mean, the core rules are expansive in Dungeons & Dragons now. It's ridiculous. Now the entire SRD is under a Creative Commons license that Brink pointed out is irrevocable in a way that doesn't require you to take our word for it. Choosing such a license is like going through a one-way door, he added. There's no going back. Content creators will now be able to choose to use the original OGL or the new Creative Commons license as the basis for their D&D related content going forward, Brink writes. And the SRD being under a new license means that there's no longer a need for a specific policy on virtual tabletop content. With this new approach, we're setting that aside and counting on your choices to define the future of play, Brinks writes. Thank you for your continued dedication and love for Dungeons & Dragons, WotC tweeted from the D&D Beyond account. We are sorry for the pain we've caused to the community. We look forward to building what comes next with our players and creators. There's comments. Can we see the comments? I don't know if that's going to... here we go. We got some comments. Will they also release older editions as CC? Are people playing the older editions, really? I mean, I know there are people who are, but I mean, people seem to be very much attached to 5th edition. Maybe there's some 3rd edition, but there's very few people playing 1st, 2nd, or basic Dungeons & Dragons. Glad to see these shenanigans have come to a halt for now. 100% this was instigated by an MBA somewhere who just had absolutely no understanding about the community. Yeah, perhaps. This is a much better outcome than I expected. Yeah, so people aren't really saying a whole lot. Let's see, what's this here? Well, back to effing with Magic players we go then. Yeah. So they're going to go after the Magic players. This OGL thing was so bad for the D&D community. People who are very much a part of this actually even took action. So we have this article here. D&D Beyond founder OGL changes are building walls around Dungeons & Dragons. Original D&D Beyond founder Adam Bradford is disappointed by the D&D OGL developments. It is frustrating to see the walls being built around the garden. D&D Beyond founder and Demiplane CDO Adam Bradford recently weighed in on the Dungeons & Dragons OGL controversy, telling Wargamer, "As a fan of D&D, it is frustrating to see the walls being built around the garden. Through founding and overseeing DDB, I had a front row seat to the direction WotC wanted to go with things, and that played a key role in my departure from that former job." Bradford was the lead on D&D Beyond when it first launched in 2017, and he moved to tabletop RPG tool website Demiplane in 2021. Both offer digital aids to RPG players, for example, by creating D&D character sheets or checking rules for D&D classes and D&D races. Oh, so this is their model that they're going after then, is what I can assume from this article. Is the Dungeons & Dragons model is to have the tabletop role-playing game assisted by the computer, because there's just too many freaking rules to keep track of everything. And all of the rules can be broken. Yay. It's just stupid. Despite his concerns about the walls the D&D OGL developments may put up, he remains hopeful for the hobby in general. As a TTRPG fan, I know that the hobby will endure through the open playground outside those walls, he tells Wargamer. The leaked D&D OGL 1.1 document included restrictive language around third-party ownership of content, as well as plans to demand royalty payments from the system's largest third-party earners. Wizards of the Coast has since apologized for the 1.1 document and is currently accepting player feedback on OGL 1.2. However, many third-party publishers vowed to leave 5e before any statement was made, and multiple TTRPG creators have proposed their own third-party licenses. Yeah, I mean, make your own damn game. I'm making my own game, and guess what? Guess what my game is going to be for all of you out there? If you're interested, it's going to be open license. I don't care if you publish stuff for my game. Why would I? And then on top of that, I mean, I don't think my game's going to get any sales, but maybe a couple. Maybe I'll sell a few dozen copies. Hopefully I can sell thousands and thousands, and people open their eyes to what real role-playing games are, what real gaming is. Rolling dice, you can do that without having a story attached to it. If that's what you want to do, is like roll dice. Oh, look, I beat your dice. Oh, look, I beat your dice. Oh, okay. Then fine. Go do that. Just roll dice and see who wins. But if you want to have story, then freaking have story. When Paizo, another game you should just completely avoid, announced its ORC, its alternative third-party game license, Demiplane was among the first to sign up to work with the ORC. Demiplane is proud to share our support and enthusiastic participation in the Open RPG Creative License Integrative Initiative alongside our partner Paizo and other TTRPG leaders. Bradford tells Wargamer. If you don't know what Paizo is, it is Pathfinder, which is basically just D&D. It's almost the same game. You are stuck in your class and your level, whatever that is. You have no option to do anything other than what is dictated by that. You can maybe multi-class. Okay, yay. Should be able to just do whatever you want to do. I mean, I am not a 12th level computer animator. That's not like, that doesn't exist in reality. You're trying to simulate reality with these games. Not only that, if I want to go off and learn how to play the guitar, I can. Not in D&D. No, you can't do that. You're stuck with, I mean, your character might get a music skill, but I mean, that's just the example. Look, if I'm a wizard, can I learn to use the longsword? Not without becoming a fighter too. Why do I have to multi-class to learn new things? Why can't I just learn how to use whatever I want to use? Nope, can't do it in D&D. It's just ridiculous. The thing that separates our hobby from many others is a cooperative nature and inclusiveness, he adds. Open gaming has set a precedent that has been a vital ingredient in the explosive growth of the tabletop role-playing space for decades. Wizards of the Coast's most recent OGL draft also includes a policy for virtual tabletops, VTTs, though recent feedback already suggests fans think it misses the mark. Despite Demiplane's many digital tools, Bradford tells Wargamer the new VTT policy proposed in the most recent documentation has no effect on what we're doing at Demiplane. I've known for years where things were going, so we have been intentional in securing top-tier partners that publish games outside of 5e, he adds. Even though we don't love the circumstances that brought it about, we are incredibly excited to see the rapidly growing interest in other systems. And Demiplane is committed to providing high-quality digital support for fans as they explore and discover their next favorite game. There was a lot more in the 90s. There was a lot more interest in other games in the 90s than I've seen today. Like, a lot more. The interest has fallen off because of the open gaming license. Because people could just, oh, we're going to start publishing all this stuff for D&D. D&D is going to be a big thing. We got to push the fan base. We got to get... This is a way for people to make money. I mean, D&D is the most popular role-playing game. It's the oldest role-playing game. Oldest does not mean best. In this case, oldest means worse. They didn't know what they were doing when they made the first Dungeons & Dragons game. And a lot of these bad rules have carried over, but they've added a whole bunch of other bad rules that don't make any sense, that don't make the game playable. So let's take a look here at Twitter and see what they're saying. Here's the recanting of the 1.1, a post on D&D Beyond. We are leaving OGL 1.0a in place as is, untouched. We are also making the entire SRD 5.1 available under a Creative Commons license. You choose which you prefer to use. None of them. Get away from Dungeons. Look, if you like medieval fantasy, you can play that with GURPS. You can play it with the Hero system, Savage Worlds, Dissect system, Big Eye Small Mouth. Big Eye Small Mouth is a great game. You can play it with Talislanta, which is it's the system that 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons is based on. Okay? Only it's way better. And it's free. It's online. It's free. Just go get it and download it. It's free. They want you to download it for free. Let's take a look at some of these tweets. So this Samaron says, do note, people, this is mainly to maintain sub revenue for D&D Beyond and to reduce amount of people boycotting the upcoming film. As others state, unless they fully confirm on legal documents they won't ever touch the OGL 1.0, then we good. But so far, no cemented proof of it yet. And then this Raging Redneck, he points out that it doesn't matter because they have the SRD where it says you can use their stuff. We have down here Gekikudo. You cannot believe in a company that was forced into this position. They're rolling back because people canceled their D&D Beyond subs. They're still the same company that just tried to ruin your business. So is WotC woke that we're seeing here? Is Hasbro woke? They have this female CEO running WotC, and what do woke people do? They try to take everybody else's stuff for themselves. I mean, that's typical of wokeness. It's not the only group of people that do this. She is a female CEO, so I'm guessing that she's super woke. She's total flaming feminazi, the woman in charge of WotC. So yeah, this does fall within my wheelhouse if you're wondering why I'm talking about D&D again. Is this a case of get woke, go broke? We're watching it unfold right before our eyes. D&D Short says, I'm grateful that they listened. I'm glad you didn't burn yourselves down fighting the community on this. I disagree, but okay. And then Lloyd Bukowski says, they still won't add irrevocable to 1.0a, which means in a couple of years, when enough people have chosen Creative Commons, they will try the same thing again, trying to extort third-party creators with another sneaky email requiring a signature, which they tried to call a draft. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. It just depends on what kind of business model they can get and whether or not they can keep growing and having customers come to them. That's the problem. You're going to see a lot of people going over to Paizo. Oh, look, it's so much better than D&D because they're not going to try to screw us. It's still a crappy game. Got Autumn down here says, too little, too late. We don't trust you anymore. We know you view us as nothing more than obstacles for more money. What about for 1D&D? None of this matters if it's for the version you're trying to phase out. Anyways, dedicate all current and future editions to Orc. Yeah, see, exactly. People are going to this Paizo thing because they can't see beyond the fact that, oh, you have a level in a class. This tells me everything about you that I need to know. It's very, very prejudiced, very prejudicial. All these people who are complaining about, oh, D&D can't be racist at all. No, it can't be racist. But it's built into the system that you are this one thing. You are this thing. It's so obvious. Like, have you ever watched the show, The Legend of Vox Machina? It's a terrible show. Terrible is pretty strong. It's not that great of a show, but it's based on Dungeons and Dragons. You can pick out what each different character is just by watching the show. You got a ranger, you got a druid, you got a cleric. Those things are standard D&D, and it's really obvious to see what they are in the show. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a character who is based on, a certain line of their profession, but they should be able to define that more as how the player sees it. Like, oh, I'm a fighter. And actually, in truth, D&D 5e, you can basically build the fighter the way you want him to be because you're allowed to just take all these different random abilities. But he's the only one, I think. I don't think any of the other classes allow you to really build the character so much. But I mean, if you say, oh, I'm a barbarian, well, what level are you? That tells me pretty much everything I need to go. And now they have these paths in Dungeons & Dragons, the 5th edition. They have paths, so you can choose at 3rd level. You get to choose, like, I want to be a barbarian like this, or I want to be a barbarian like this. You get only like 2 or 3 options, though. There's only a couple options. It's not a lot. And they have, of course, added more in their supplements. There's supplemental material that they put out for this stuff, but it's still really limited in what you can and can't do as far as your class is concerned. What if I view my barbarian as somebody who rides bareback on wild animals. He has the ability to just tame wild animals and ride bareback on them, and I do my best fighting from the back of an animal. Nope, that doesn't exist in D&D. Good luck. No such thing. You can't define that. You can do it maybe as a ranger, sort of, but rangers in 5th edition apparently are garbage. So let's talk about some of the stupid rules in Dungeons & Dragons for the end of the video. I like to point out how bad the rules in D&D are. And the reason I talk about this stuff is trying to simulate reality. It is. I mean, we're trying to pretend to be in a situation that is believable. So a lot of people will argue, like, it doesn't matter. There's magic. There's magic in the world, so you can just have whatever plot device you want to. No. What you're doing is you're saying, hey, look, the world is just like ours, only there's magic on top of that. So you can still fall off of a 100-foot height and die. You can still get stabbed to death. You can still get poisoned. You can still get sick and die. You can still drown. These things still exist. Right? Otherwise, what are the stakes in the game? It's like there's no challenge to the game. If you want to play that way, if you want to play like, look, I'm so frustrated with my life that I just want to be able to win at everything I do. Okay, fine, play the game that way. I'm not going to stop you. That's one option of how to play the game. Overall, the option should be, can we simulate reality with this? You can't in D&D. Here's one rule in Dungeons & Dragons. It's been in Dungeons & Dragons since the basic edition. It's never changed. It's flipped around, and they've changed some of the numbers of the different things you can get to improve this. But it's armor class. What is armor class? What the heck is that? What's armor class? Armor class is your ability to keep from taking damage in Dungeons & Dragons. Guess what armor does? Armor improves your armor class. Armor makes you harder to hit. So if you're wearing plate mail, you're harder to hit than somebody wearing chainmail. Harder to hit than somebody wearing a gambeson. How does that work? I mean, yes, it's harder to hit your skin. It's actually harder to actually physically touch your skin. But if somebody smacks me upside the head with a longsword and I'm wearing a chainmail coif, I'm going to feel that more so than if somebody smacks me up the side of the head and I'm wearing a metal helmet. So even though the plate armor makes me harder to hit, I'm not somehow. But whatever that's all about, it's ridiculous. Another stupid rule in Dungeons & Dragons, in case I haven't convinced you yet that this game is not worth playing. I mean, there's so many. Armor should reduce your damage. Like, if you get hit with something, it should reduce the amount of damage you take. It's that simple. That's how every other game does it, because that's how reality works. You're going to take less damage getting hit in the head if you have a metal helmet than you are if you have a chainmail coif on. That's just how it works. That's my point with that. Okay, another rule that's been with D&D forever. It's actually changed quite a bit. It's actually significantly changed. If I say to you, I have a 16 strength, what the hell does that mean? Do you know? If you're just a lay person, you don't know anything about it. Is 16 good? Is 16 high? Is 16 low? On a scale of 100, well, 16 is pretty low. But is low better than high? Is 16 better than 17? You don't know. You have no idea. Now, all you gamers out there who played 5th edition, played 3rd edition, know what 16 strength means. It means +3. What? Yeah, 16 translates into +3. 18 translates into +4. And 20 translates into +5. Why not just have the bonus? Because that's all that matters now. 5th edition, 3rd edition, 3.5, 4.0. The bonus is all that matters. It used to be the number mattered. Like if you had a 16 strength, that was important because that actually meant that you had a better chance at succeeding if you had to make a strength check. If you ever have to check your strength, you roll 20-sided die, you roll low. If it's lower than your strength, you win. Now they have your difficulty level. Difficulty level of 10, roll a die, add your bonus. If it's above 10, you win. So the 16 translates into a +3. Why they don't change this? The lowest attribute you can have is a 1, which is -5. In game terms, they want to limit you to having only the highest attribute of 20, which is stupid, ridiculously stupid. You should be able to have your attributes as high as you can take them with magic, etc. And that's a +5. So why not just have a range on your attributes of -5 to +5 for starting characters? That seems to make sense instead of having a number that is generated between 3 and 18. And with racial bonuses, it could be between 3 and 20. Because there's no longer any racial negative modifiers. Can't have that. I mean, halfling is just as strong as a human, even though they're 3 feet tall. And we don't like having negative racial modifiers. How dare we? How dare we do that? Just negative racial modifiers. What are we thinking? It's ridiculous. Halflings are just as strong as humans, don't you know? Orcs are just as intelligent as humans. You know. Yeah, okay. Play good games. Play Talislanta, Shadowrun. Play Big Eyes, Small Mouth, the Hero System, GURPS, Savage Worlds, the Dice 6 system. All of those games I just mentioned give you agency over your character, and all of them but Shadowrun and Talislanta are designed to play anything you want to play. If you want to play dramatic space opera with lightsabers, like something called Star Wars, you can do that. Just go get one of those games. You only need to buy one book, and you have everything that you need to play the entire game for the rest of your life. And you don't have to give any money to a company like WotC that's going to possibly stab you in the back and then take away your ability to earn a living. It's not a big corporation. None of these other companies are these big corporations. Paizo is a big corporation. You don't need that in your life anyway. You should get away from that and get down to smaller mom and pop publishers who want to give you a quality product that you only have to buy one time. So anyway, I'm going to come out with my own game. You buy it one time. You can open gaming license. I don't care. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching.